The night sky over Earth was quiet, but the deep space antennas were never silent. They listened day and night, searching for voices hidden in the stars. Most days there was only noise, just empty static, but tonight something changed. Inside an old observatory near the edge of the city, the signal came through, weak, broken, and strange. It repeated the same words again and again. "Do you remember me? I'm the broken alien girl you once loved in the stars." The technician on duty was asleep. His feet on the desk, the machine beeped softly, but no one noticed. Not until morning, by the time the message reached the Space Authority. It had already repeated over 700 times. No one understood what it meant, no one. Except Captain Raylan Cross. Raylan sat alone in his small apartment, watching the message play on the news. The voice hit him like a thunderbolt, soft, shaking, and full of pain. He hadn't heard it in 10 years, but he knew it well. It was her. "Zira," he whispered, his eyes wide. Raylan was a retired space soldier, a war hero to some, a ghost to others. He didn't talk much anymore, didn't go out. People thought he was broken, lost in old memories, and maybe he was. He had fought in the Orion War, a terrible war between humans and the alien race called the Varelians, a war that had destroyed cities, planets, and hearts. But in the middle of that war, something impossible happened. Raylan had fallen in love. Her name was Zira. She was Varelian, tall, silver-eyed. With glowing lines on her skin, she was kind, curious, and brave. And she saved his life. They kept their love secret. If anyone had found out, both would have been killed. And one day someone did. There was fire, screaming, a failed escape. Raylan had thought she died. He blamed himself every day since now. 10 years later, her voice was calling to him through the stars. Not just a memory, not a dream. She was real. And she was in pain. He tried to tell the Space Authority. They laughed at him, said it was an old signal, probably fake. But Raylan wasn't laughing. He knew her voice. And he knew what he had to do. That night he broke into an old military hangar. Dust covered everything but his old scout ship. The Ember Light still stood tall, rusty but alive like him. He ran his hands over the controls. "Still remember me?" he said to the ship, smiling slightly. The ship hummed back like an old friend. Raylan loaded the coordinates from the signal. Deep in Sector 9. Near the ghost planets, no one had gone there since the war ended. Too dangerous, too many memories, perfect. He launched into the black void of space. Alone again, but this time with hope as he flew past the moon. The message played one more time on his screen. "Do you remember me? I'm the broken alien girl you once loved in the stars." Raylan closed his eyes. "Yes," he whispered. "I remember everything." His fingers tightened on the controls. He didn't know what he would find, a trap, a lie, or the truth. But he knew this. If Zira was out there, he would find her, even if it cost him his life. The stars outside Raylan's ship drifted slowly, like silent witnesses to forgotten wars. But Raylan's eyes were fixed on one planet. Dark, cold and silent, it was once called Virelia 6, a battlefield that no one dared visit anymore. This was the place where everything ended 10 years ago, where he lost Zira. Now he had returned. The Ember Light shook gently as it entered the planet's atmosphere. Ash still floated in the air like snow. Craters and burnt cities stretched across the surface. It looked like a graveyard, and Raylan felt like a ghost walking through it. He stepped out of the ship, the cold wind biting through his armor. The ruins of an old outpost stood ahead. Half buried in sand and time, Raylan remembered this place. It was where Zira tried to send a message to her people, a plea for peace. And where the soldiers came, guns blazing, he moved carefully, scanning with his visor. No life signs, only silence, until he heard something strange, a soft hum, like a song buried in static. He followed the sound into the ruins, past fallen towers and shattered glass. There, under a collapsed ceiling, was a broken communication console, and resting on top of it, a silver chain with a glowing blue crystal. Zira's necklace. Raylan dropped to his knees. His fingers shook as he picked it up. The crystal still pulsed faintly as if it remembered her heartbeat. He held it close. She had been here. Suddenly, the console lit up. The screen flashed once, then showed a flickering image. It was her, Zira, sitting in a dim room, her eyes wide with fear. If If you ever find this, I'm sorry, she said, her voice trembling. They took me, The message glitched. Static cutting through, her image disappeared. Raylan stared at the screen, his chest tight. She was alive. And she was in trouble then. Behind him, a sound. Footsteps. He turned fast, drawing his blaster. Shadows moved among the ruins. Figures stepped out, tall, armored and alien. Virelian rebels. You, growled one of them, pointing. Human soldier. You're not welcome here. Raylan didn't lower his weapon. I came for her, he said, voice steady. For Zira, the rebels growled, weapons ready. You have no right to speak her name, said the leader. She was one of us. Until she betrayed her blood for your kind, I never forced her, Raylan said. She chose peace. A moment of silence. Then a younger rebel, a girl with glowing lines on her face, and stepped forward. She looked at Raylan, her eyes unsure. She talked about you, she said softly. She said you saved her once, the leader growled. But didn't stop her. The girl nodded to Raylan. Come with me. He followed her through underground tunnels. Deep beneath the surface there, hidden in a sealed chamber, were old data drives and recording crystals. The girl pulled out one, dusty and cracked. She left this. Raylan inserted the drive into his visor. A new message played, clearer this time. Zira appeared again, thinner now, her voice softer. If you're watching this, then I'm probably gone, she said. They took me to the mind lab. Sector 9 said they'd fix me. Erase me. She held up her necklace. The same one in Raylan's hand. But I kept this. Because it remembers you. Raylan's jaw clenched. Mind labs. Places where memories were stolen and replaced. Places where people became tools. The message ended and the girl looked at him. We wanted to find her. But we're hunted too, she said. If you go, you'll be alone. Raylan stood tall, placing the necklace around his neck. Then I'll go alone, he said. As he turned to leave, the ground rumbled. An explosion rocked the tunnels, dust rained from the ceiling. And red lights flashed. They found us. Someone shouted. Raylan ran back to the ember light. Heart pounding, he didn't look back. His mission was clear now. Sector 9. The mind labs, the last place Zira was seen. But as he launched into orbit, a new message appeared on his screen. It wasn't from Zira, it was from someone else. Stop chasing ghosts. Captain, the voice said, cold and sharp. She belongs to us now. Raylan's grip tightened. Not if he could help it. The stars stretched endlessly ahead, but Raylan's mind was somewhere else. Zira's voice still echoed in his head. Soft, broken and desperate. He replayed her message again and again, searching for something. Anything, a clue, a code, a hidden meaning. But all he could hear was pain. The Emberlight's engines purred quietly. Cutting through dark space, he was heading toward Sector 9, the place she had mentioned, the Mind Labs. A place where the Virelians erased memories, rebuilt soldiers, and turned love into obedience. He had seen what they did to people there during the war. He never thought he would go back. As he neared the sector, alarms flashed across his screen. A fleet of Virelian patrol ships appeared out of nowhere before he could react. One of them fired a warning shot. Human craft. Power down or be destroyed, came a metallic voice through his comms. Raylan hesitated only a second before answering. This is Captain Raylan Cross. I'm not your enemy. Static filled the line. Then silence, and then without warning they fired again. The Emberlight shook violently as blast hit its wings. Raylan swore under his breath. He pulled hard on the controls, dodging through the wreckage of old satellites, but there were too many of them. The ship trembled, alarms screamed, and everything went black. When Raylan opened his eyes, he was lying on a cold metal floor. His wrists were bound, his head pounding. He tried to move but couldn't. Dim blue lights flickered above him. He was in a cell, a door hissed open. 3 Virelians walked in, soldiers tall and armored. Behind them stood a woman with pale blue skin and eyes like frozen glass. She smiled faintly when she saw him. So, the famous human returns, she said. Zira's little soldier. Raylan frowned. Who are you? My name is Commander Vera, she said, circling him slowly. I was Zira's superior. Before she betrayed us for you. Her words hit him like ice. She didn't betray you, Raylan said quietly. She tried to save you. All of you? Vera laughed coldly. Save us? She doomed us, human. She gave secrets to the enemy, to you. She was weak, emotional, broken. Raylan's jaw clenched. Where is she? He demanded. Vera's expression darkened. She's where she belongs and in the lab under control, finally serving her purpose. Raylan felt rage burn inside him. He lunged forward, but the soldiers pushed him down. Vera leaned closer, whispering, She doesn't remember you, and she never will. Then, something unexpected happened. A blast rocked the corridor outside, followed by shouts and gunfire. Vera turned sharply. What's happening? The door burst open. Smoke, sparks, chaos. A small figure stepped in, holding a plasma rifle. It was the young rebel girl from the ruins. Captain, get up, she shouted, blasting the locks on his cuffs. Raylan jumped to his feet, grabbing a fallen weapon. Together they fought their way through the corridors. The alarms screamed red, and the base shook as explosions echoed through the halls. Why did you come here? Raylan asked between breaths. The girl fired at a guard and ducked behind a wall. You helped us, now it's my turn, she said. And I know where she is. They reached a sealed chamber at the end of the corridor. The girl hacked the control panel, her fingers moving fast. The door slid open with a hiss. Inside it was silent. Rows of glass pods lined the walls, filled with mist, and in the center one pod stood open and empty. A single light blinked on the console beside it. Subject Z01, transferred to Sector 9B, the screen read. Raylan's heart sank. She had been moved again, deeper into the facility. Always one step ahead of him, always just out of reach. Suddenly a voice came from behind them. Vera, holding a weapon. You can't save her. Raylan, she hissed. She's not who you remember. She's something else now, Raylan turned. Calm but burning inside. Then I'll remind her, he said. He fired, hitting the console beside her, causing a burst of light and sparks. The explosion threw them apart, the smoke thick and hot. Raylan and the girl ran for the hangar, the sound of soldiers closing in behind. They jumped aboard the Ember Light, engines roaring back to life. As the ship blasted out of the base, fire followed them into the sky. Raylan looked back through the viewport. He could see the burning labs fading into the darkness, but his thoughts were only on her. Zira, trapped, broken, erased, and yet, he knew, deep inside, she was still there, waiting. He touched the necklace around his neck. The blue crystal glowed faintly. She's still alive, he whispered. She remembers something. The girl looked at him, eyes wide. Then what now? She asked. Raylan's gaze turned toward the black horizon. To Sector 9B, he said softly, and to the truth. The stars grew darker as the ember light drifted into the shadow of Sector 9B. There were no trade routes here, no signals, no life, only silence, and one massive structure floating in orbit, the Mind Fortress. Raylan had seen it before during the war, a cold, lifeless place where prisoners were turned into machines, where memories were rewritten until souls forgot who they were. Now he was going back, not as a soldier but as a man chasing a ghost. The young rebel girl sat beside him, silent. Her name was Lyra, and her hands trembled as she stared at the fortress through the viewport. They say no one ever comes back from there, she whispered. Raylan didn't answer. He just checked his weapon and stared at the blinking blue light on the necklace. It pulsed softly, leading him to her Zira. He docked the ship in a maintenance port beneath the fortress. The metal doors hissed open, releasing a cloud of cold air. Inside, everything smelled like dust, oil, and forgotten screams. They moved quietly through the corridors, Raylan's boots echoing on the floor. The walls were covered with strange Varelian symbols, warnings, codes, maybe even prayers. Lyra stopped suddenly. There, she said, pointing at a large chamber ahead. The sign above the door read, Subject Archive, Memory Division. They stepped inside. Rows of glass pods lined the chamber like coffins, each one holding a person floating in blue mist, their faces calm, their eyes closed. The lost, the erased. Raylan moved from one pod to another, scanning each tag until he froze. There it was, Subject Z01 Zira. His breath caught in his throat. He stepped closer, his hands trembling. Inside the pod was Zira, her body thin and pale, her silver eyes closed, her hair floating like silk in water. but she was alive, still breathing. Raylan pressed his hand against the glass. "Zira," he whispered. "I found you." Lyra worked quickly on the control panel. "I can open it, but the alarm—" "Do it," Raylan said firmly. The pod hissed open with a burst of cold air. Zira fell forward, weak and shaking. Raylan caught her before she hit the floor. Her skin was cold, her breathing shallow. Her eyes flickered open for a second. She looked at him, but there was no recognition, only confusion, fear. "Who are you?" she whispered. Raylan's heart broke. "It's me," he said softly. "It's Raylan," but she shook her head weakly. "I don't know that name," a metallic voice echoed from above. "Unauthorized access detected," the alarms blared. Red lights flashing across the room. Raylan lifted Zira in his arms. "We have to go," he shouted. Lyra nodded and ran ahead, leading the way through narrow halls. Behind them, footsteps thundered, and mechanical guards came alive. Raylan fired back, his blaster lighting up the corridor. Each shot echoed like thunder. He didn't care about the pain in his shoulder, or the blood running down his arm. He only cared about the woman he held. They reached the end of the hall. "A dead end," Lyra cursed. "There's no exit here." Zira stirred weakly in Raylan's arms. Her fingers brushed against his chest, touching the glowing necklace. The blue crystal flashed, bright and wild. Suddenly, the walls around them shimmered. The metal rippled like water. A hidden passage opened before them. Raylan stared in shock. "She did this," Lyra said in awe. She opened it herself. They ran through the passage and entered a large control room. Screens showed faces, memories, lives being erased. In the center, a large machine pulsed with white energy. Raylan laid Zira gently beside it. He could see wires connected to her neck and spine. "Like scars from another life, this is what they did to her," Lyra whispered. "They replaced her memories with commands." Raylan's jaw tightened. He reached for the control core, a glowing cube at the heart of the system. "If I pull this out, will it bring her back?" Lyra hesitated. "It might, or it might kill her." Raylan looked at Zira. Her face peaceful but empty. He remembered her laughter, her voice, her eyes full of light. And he made his choice. He pulled the cube out. The room exploded with light. The alarms died, the guards froze, and the entire fortress shook. Zira gasped, her eyes snapping open. For a moment, her silver pupils glowed like stars. Her voice came out weak but clear. "Raylan." He froze, staring at her. She remembered, even for just a second. She remembered. But before he could speak, the floor trembled again. The main reactor was collapsing, the fortress tearing itself apart. Lyra shouted, "We have to go now." Raylan picked Zira up once more and ran through the falling corridors. Fire and smoke all around. They reached the ship just as the fortress exploded behind them. A storm of metal and light inside the emberlight. Zira lay unconscious again, her breathing uneven. Raylan sat beside her, holding her hand. Her pulse was weak, but there she was, alive, and somewhere inside her. Broken mind. A spark of the old Zira had returned. He looked out the viewport, the burning fortress fading into the black void. "We're not done," he whispered. "I'm bringing you back." The necklace glowed again, softly, faintly, as if answering him. The ember light drifted through quiet space, carrying 3 souls who had seen too much. Raylan sat beside Zira, watching her sleep. Her breathing was slow, but steady. Her body alive, but her mind lost. She had said his name once before falling back into silence. Just once, but it was enough to give him hope. Lyra checked the ship's systems, her hands moving quickly. "The damage from the escape was bad," she said. "We need to land and repair. There's a small moon nearby, hidden in the asteroid field." Raylan nodded slowly, but his eyes never left Zira. He wasn't thinking about repairs. He was thinking about how to reach her mind, how to pull her from the prison inside her own head. "Can the neural interface still work?" he asked quietly. Lyra blinked, surprised. "You mean go inside her mind?" Raylan nodded again. "I've seen it done before during the war," he said. "Some soldiers were reprogrammed, their memories locked away. If I connect to her through the memory link, maybe I can find her." Lyra hesitated. "It's dangerous," she warned. "If she's broken inside, She might not even recognize you. She could fight you, hurt you. I don't care, Raylan said. If there's even a small chance she's still in there, I'll find her. They landed the ship on the dark side of the moon, hidden under heavy rock and metal. The stars above looked like silent watchers. Inside the ship, Raylan lay beside Zira, placing the neural band over his head and hers. The connection hummed, warm and cold at the same time. Then everything went dark. When Raylan opened his eyes, he was no longer on the ship. He was standing in a strange world, silent and colorless. The sky was gray, the ground soft like sand. It was not a real place, it was Zira's mind. He looked around, empty fields, broken statues, shattered glass floating in the air, pieces of memories torn apart and drifting. Zira. He called out, no answer. He walked slowly, touching each broken memory. One showed her laughing in a garden. Another showed her being dragged by soldiers screaming his name. Then one, small and cracked, showed the two of them under starlight, her head resting on his shoulder. His heart ached. She had tried to hold on to him. Even when they erased everything, she had fought to remember him. Raylan. The voice came from behind him. Soft and trembling, he turned. There she was, standing in a long corridor of light, her eyes wide with confusion. Zira, he said, stepping closer. It's me, I'm here. She backed away. No, this isn't real, she whispered. They said you were a lie. I'm not, he said, reaching out slowly. They tried to make you forget, but your heart remembered. You called out to me. Again and again, she held her head, pain flashing in her eyes. I don't know what's real. I hear voices, I see pieces. I'm scared. Raylan stepped closer, pulling the necklace from his pocket. It glowed blue, the light reflecting in her eyes. He placed it in her hand. You gave me this the night before they took you, he said. You said it would guide me back to you. Tears filled her eyes as the light grew brighter. Memories began forming around her, whole ones. Real ones, their first meeting on the battlefield, the stolen nights beneath alien skies, the way she smiled when she called him foolish. I remember, she whispered. A single tear rolled down her cheek. You called me your little star, Raylan smiled, his throat tight. That's right, he said. You were the brightest thing in my dark world. Suddenly, the sky cracked above them. The fortress program, still alive, had found them inside the neural space. Dark figures emerged. Twisted copies of soldiers and machines. They began marching toward them. Weapons raised. Zira gasped, her body shaking. They're coming to take me again. No, Raylan said firmly, standing in front of her. Not this time. He turned and fired into the dark, the bullets made of light and memory. Zira stepped beside him, her hands glowing with blue energy. Together they fought the shadows, breaking them apart with every strike. Light filled the space, stronger, warmer. And just before the last shadow faded, Raylan heard her whisper, I'm ready to come home. A burst of light threw him out of the neural link. He gasped awake inside the ember light, his body drenched in sweat. Beside him, Zira opened her eyes wide and clear. She looked at him, truly looked. Raylan, she said, her voice soft but steady. You came for me. He smiled, his eyes full of tears. Always. They held hands as the stars passed silently outside. But peace would not last for long. Lyra rushed in, her face pale. We've been tracked, she said. A ship is approaching, a massive. And armed, Raylan stood, his heart burning. They're coming to take her again, he said, but now. She was awake and he was ready. The alarm inside the ember light pulsed like a heartbeat. Red lights flashed across the control room as Lyra pointed at the radar. They've found us, she said, voice shaking. One ship, no, two, no, three. Raylan moved quickly to the pilot's seat. Scanning the data, the enemy ships were Varelian hunters. Fast, armed, ruthless. They weren't here to talk. They were here to take Zira back or destroy her. Zira stood behind him, her body still weak but her eyes clear. I know those ships, she said, her voice quiet. They were used to track prisoners who escaped from the mind labs. Raylan looked at her. Can you fight? Zira hesitated. I don't know what they left in me, she whispered. I feel power, but it's scattered like broken stars. Raylan nodded. Then we run. The ember light roared to life. its engines burning bright as it lifted off from the moon's surface. Behind them, the enemy ships descended, forming a wide net in space. "They're trying to trap us," Lyra said, watching the screens. "They'll force us into the gravity well," Raylan gritted his teeth. "Not today." He turned the ship hard, flying low and fast along the edge of the asteroid field. Rocks the size of mountains drifted all around them. One wrong move and they'd be crushed. But it was their only chance. The enemy ships followed, weaving through the rocks, firing blasts that lit up the darkness. Raylan dodged and dipped, engines screaming, "Come on, old girl," he whispered to the ember light. "Don't fail me now." Zira watched the enemy ships closing in. Memories flickered in her mind. Cold hands flashing lights, voices shouting commands. And then, Raylan's face, his voice saying her name. That memory burned the brightest. Suddenly, her body tensed. Blue lines lit up along her arms. Glowing with energy, she gasped, staggering back. "Raylan," she whispered. "I remember what they did." Raylan turned. "What's happening?" "They gave me something," she said, her voice shaking. "A weapon inside me. A way to destroy from a distance. But I buried it deep. I hid it because I was scared. Now the fear was gone." Now she was ready. She moved to the back of the ship, raised her hands and closed her eyes. Outside, the air around the ship shimmered. A wave of energy pulsed from her body, spreading like a ripple through the stars. The enemy ships froze for a moment. Sensors overloaded, engines stalling. "Now!" Raylan shouted. He hit the thrusters and broke through the net. The ember light spun past the last hunter ship, just as it exploded in a flash of blue light. They burst out of the asteroid field. The stars suddenly wide and free again, but their relief was short-lived. A massive shadow loomed ahead, a war cruiser, 10 times larger than the ember light, its cannons already powering up. Zira staggered, blood running from her nose. "I can't stop that one," she said weakly. "It's too big." Raylan looked around, searching for anything. Then he saw it, and a wormhole. Flickering in the distance, it was unstable, wild, forbidden. But it was the only way. If we go in there, we won't know where we'll end up, Lyra warned. Raylan looked at Zira. She nodded. "Anywhere is better than back there." Raylan turned the ship toward the wormhole. The warcruiser opened fire, a beam of red light cutting through space. The ember light shook violently. Alarm screaming, metal groaning, engines damaged. Lyra shouted, "We'll never make it unless we drop weight." Raylan's eyes went to the cargo hold. It held nothing but weapons and old gear. He slammed a switch, opening the rear hatch. The gear spilled into space, buying them a few more seconds, but not enough. The next blast hit them hard. Zira fell, her body glowing brighter as the energy inside her surged. "No!" Raylan shouted, grabbing her. But she looked at him, calm now. "I can push us," she said softly. "My power. It's enough for one last burst." Raylan shook his head. "It'll kill you." "I'd rather burn free than live caged," she whispered. And with a final smile, she placed her hands on the ship's core. Her energy flowed into the ember light. The engine screamed, bursting with light. The ship shot forward, racing into the wormhole just as the warcruiser fired one last time. The wormhole swallowed them whole, twisting space and time into a storm of color. Then silence inside the ship. Raylan lay on the floor, gasping. Lyra crawled to the controls. "We're alive," she said, voice weak. "But I don't know where we are." Raylan turned to Zira, her body still glowing faintly. She was unconscious, her pulse weak but steady. He pulled her close, his voice trembling. "You saved us." Outside the window, a strange planet floated nearby, half metal, half forest, unknown, untouched. They had escaped. But something was waiting for them on that planet, and the story wasn't over yet. The planet below was like nothing Raylan had ever seen. Half of it shimmered with metallic towers buried in vines, while the other half glowed with forest lit by blue fireflies. The ember light circled slowly, its engines flickering. Inside, silence filled the ship. Zira lay still, her body cold, her energy spent. Raylan sat beside her. Holding her hand, she had given everything to save them. He could still feel the warmth of her pulse, faint. "But there, we need help," Lyra said quietly. Scanning the surface, "There's no signal, but..." "Look." On the planet's surface was a strange pattern. Huge stone rings arranged like a forgotten language. At the center, a glowing structure pulsed like a beating heart. It looked ancient yet alive, like it had been waiting. Raylan nodded. We land. The emberlight touched down near the stone rings. Its legs creaking from the damage, Raylan carried Zira in his arms, her head resting against his shoulder. Lyra followed close behind, scanning the air. Oxygen's good, she said, but this place, it's not just a planet. Raylan looked around. The trees moved slowly as if breathing, and the stones vibrated with a hum that reached inside his chest. It felt like the planet was aware. They reached the glowing structure, a tall spire made of glass and light. As Raylan stepped near, the necklace around his neck began to glow again. It pulled gently toward the spire. Zira's body stirred, her fingers twitching. Then the spire opened. Inside was a chamber made of crystal and memory. Images floated in the air, not just of Zira, but of others, humans and Varelians, standing together, smiling, laughing. There had been peace once, long before the war. This place was a sanctuary, a last echo of a forgotten alliance. Suddenly the chamber pulsed, and a voice filled the room, not spoken but felt. You carry the wounded one, the voice said. She is one of us and also not. Raylan stepped forward. She fought for peace, he said. She remembered love when everything else was taken. The voice hummed again. Her mind is shattered, but her heart holds the key. We can restore her, but only if she chooses to return. Raylan knelt beside Zira, his hands holding hers. Zira, he whispered, if you can hear me. This is your choice, no more labs, no more control. Just you free. The chamber grew quiet, then a soft glow surrounded her body. The crystal beneath her pulsed with memory. Inside her mind, Zira stood at a fork in a road. On one side, peace, silence, rest; on the other, pain, struggle, and Raylan reaching out to her. She stepped toward him, her eyes opened slowly. Tears rolled down her cheeks. I chose you, she whispered. Raylan laughed softly, pulling her close. I never stopped choosing you, the chamber responded, light swirling around them. Zira's body glowed with new strength, her skin warm again. The energy that once destroyed now healed. Lyra watched in awe as the ancient walls displayed a final memory. The truth, the war had begun not because of hate, but because peace between humans and Varelians had grown too strong. Too many had fallen in love, shared knowledge, become family, and those in power, afraid of unity, and broke it apart. Now, Zira's voice reached out through the spire. She sent a signal, not of war, but of truth. It spread across stars. A wave of memory and light. She showed the galaxy the real story. Ships paused in space, leaders stared in silence. The message touched hearts, reopened wounds, and began healing them. Peace didn't come instantly, but the fire of war began to dim. And it started with the broken alien girl and the human who never gave up on her. Weeks later, the sanctuary had become a new home. The Emberlight sat parked in the meadow, half buried in flowers. Raylan and Zira walked through the glowing forest. Hand in hand, she was stronger now. Her laughter returned. The blue lines on her skin pulsed with life. Not pain, Lyra joined them, pointing at the stars. Signals are changing, she said. They're listening now. Zira smiled, looking up at the sky that once imprisoned her. Now it was open, endless. Home. Raylan placed the necklace around her neck again. It glowed softly, the same way it did when he first found her. When he remembered her, and now she remembered too. We loved in the stars, she whispered. Raylan smiled, and we still do.